We're in Hagerstown, Maryland, at Resophonic Outfitters, the home of Beard Guitars. This is Paul Beard. Nice to meet you, Paul.
Nice to meet you.
I've heard about you for so long. Paul makes probably some of the finest Resophonic guitars in the world. I know he's made hundreds of them. He's sold them all over the world to mostly bluegrass musicians, I guess?
Yeah, for the most part.
The generic name for it would be dobro,
Right.
if they talk about a dobro player. But we're visiting with Paul, and we want to get a feel of what goes on here. I've known people that treasure your instruments. They love them, and they have a beautiful sound. A Beard guitar really does. It sort of cuts through. You can hear it. It has a unique sound, and the workmanship, of course, is top quality. But how many people know how they're made? Well, today we're going to find out.
Right.
I hope we can get some insight into what goes on in this wonderful workshop and these craftsmen here building these instruments. Before we start looking at the details, how long have you been building?
I actually started building in 1985. I did an apprentice with a fellow by the name of George Morse in Vermont. Very famous guitar builder. And I learned the basic technique of guitar construction. I actually went up there to learn how to build classical guitars, and that gave me the background that I needed. The whole time I was there, though, I was interested in resonator guitars. That was my main focus. So once I grasped that concept, then I kind of ran with it from there.
Now, what led you to this particular type of instrument? Because it is unique.
Right.
It's truly, the sound of it, the way it's played is really unique. It looks like a guitar, but it ain't, you know?
Well, that's a great question, because that's really the crux of why I'm in this business today. The first time I ever heard one of these instruments, I was just blown away. I can remember, you'll hear me say this over and over, I can remember where I was when I heard the instrument. I remember the song, I remember the artist, and I heard the guitar and I thought, you know, instantly, what is that? What's making that sound? And it blew me away. It captivated me. So that was the first step. Then I found out what the instrument was. It turned out it was Mike Aldridge playing a dobro, and he was playing with the solemn scene. And I set out to find one of these instruments and how to play it. I had already played banjo and guitar and was working on some other instruments. And once I got a hold of that first dobro brand instrument, that was it. I was hooked.
That was the end, right there.
That was the end.
Well, you sure picked up the bug from a master, didn't you?
Yeah, he's just the master of tone. I love Mike's playing. He's just an incredible player. And the really neat thing about this type of music in general, bluegrass or acoustic music, is a lot of these artists are, not only are they great musicians, but they're great people. You get to know them, you can get to know them, they're on a personal level. And there's not too many music genres that you can say that. If you're into rock and roll and you happen to love Van Halen, chances of you meeting Eddie Van Halen are pretty slim.
Slim to none.
Yeah. But with this music format, chances of you meeting these truly great stars is accessible. That attracted me to the music. But I really started making these instruments because I had learned to play. I was looking for a better instrument, and I got into really researching a high-quality instrument at the time, and I really wasn't satisfied with what I could get, what was available on the market. And that got me to thinking that maybe I could do something on my own, and really that's what got me interested in trying to build them. I just found that you could buy a really high-quality banjo or mandolin, violin, whatever instrument that you were looking for, you could find it. But when it came to resonator guitars, there was really only one company at the time, and I was looking for something maybe a little higher quality. And the other thing that led me to that instrument, I've got to say, I've always been mechanically minded. I've always done things with my hands, and it just drew me to that instrument that it was half wood, half metal, very mechanical. It's, you know, it's different than a guitar. It's like half guitar, half speaker cabinet, and it was odd. Yeah. You know, it really was an odd instrument.
Well, to me, and there again, I'm speaking as a banjo player. What do I know from guitar?
Right.
It's almost nothing. But you've got the inflexibility of metal that vibrates and does one thing. to the living, breathing quality of wood. You
Right.
meld those together and you get something very special out of it.
And it's a very delicate balancing act, and that is the problem. This instrument, you'll hear me say over and over, the majority of problems that you experience with this instrument is buzzes and rattles. It's because you're constantly trying to juggle something metal and something wood and make them meet in the middle. And that's the real secret to setup on these instruments, whether it's a National, a metal body National, or Dobro, or whatever.
Well, I have an old National tenor guitar, pear-shaped,
Right.
and I don't play it a whole lot anymore, but I do notice that when you play it, the cover plate screws, they'll vibrate loose, and you got to keep you do a lot of fussing with it to keep it tight and together. You know?
That was that's interesting. That was the first concept. When I was dreaming about the perfect resonator guitar, that was the first concept that I wanted to change. And the very first beard guitar, my #1 instrument, what I did is I designed a little threaded insert that would accept a machine screw. And instead of running a wood screw down into the wood body of the instrument to hold that cover plate on, I actually incorporate little machine screws that are embedded into a metal threaded insert.
Okay.
And the nice thing about that is these instruments, like a lot of instruments, require a lot of maintenance. You can take the cover plate on and off many times. If you do that with a traditional style instrument, those wood screws strip out about the third time. So that was kind of the first improvement, if you will, that I incorporated into my instrument.
And from what I've heard from the people, we've worked with some really great musicians, and from what I've heard, you never looked back from that point. Your reputation has gone just, up and up and up and up.
Well, that's, I guess that's true. That's just some of the fun, some of the icing that goes along with the job, as it were. It's just a lot of fun. I mean, the bottom line is, I started doing this to have fun. I'm still having fun to this day. We're growing. My company is really growing. We're in a growth spurt right now, and I can honestly tell you that in 1979, when I started playing and working on instruments, I never envisioned that I'd be where I am today, and I'm just really blessed that I happen to be in this situation right now.
Yes, and it's good for you and good for musicians,
Right.
Because there's somebody they can go to get a handcrafted, top quality instrument. Now, before we start looking at the guitar itself, the pieces of it, your wood shop, a couple of things I'd like to know. I understand that you do carry a full line of instruments. You can get a beginner guitar, intermediate, custom. Tell us about that. Tell us how all this works, and you don't have to quote prices, but maybe a range what people can look to get into this instrument.
Yes, well, in addition to making beard guitars, which is a high-end custom-made instrument, I also have Resophonic Outfitters. And really, Resophonic Outfitters is a company that's dedicated to supplying parts and accessories to anybody that's interested in slide guitar. Whether it's a round neck National or square neck Dobro style, I try to carry every part, accessory, and some sort of configuration of that style of guitar that's available in the market. Resophonic Outfitters is really a one-stop shop for that type of player. And in doing so, I'm selecting parts and accessories very carefully, not only for really high-end quality, but practical things that you might need. And I learned early on that not everyone can afford a $2,000 custom guitar right out of the gate. I want to see this instrument promoted. I want to see growth in it. If I were king, I'd make sure that everybody played resonator guitar. So I'm trying to do my part, and by doing so, I import a very inexpensive instrument, resonator guitar. You'll see them on the market under a lot of different names. They're basically made in the same factory, usually in Korea, somewhere overseas. And I do a retrofit on them. I hot rod them. The inside components are not the best quality. They are very affordable. So my idea was basically to put a very high-end resonator and the same setup that I have in, say, my $2,000 and $3,000 custom guitars. It makes a very affordable package, roughly around $600, including hard shell case. You get a couple of benefits here. You get a great playing instrument because of the setup. Same setup as my instrument. You get a great sounding instrument because of the resonator, the bone nut, the bridge, all the parts that go into it. And you get great value. One thing that I offer is that if you purchase from a Resophonic Outfitters this imported instrument, I offer 100% trade-in allowance on one of my custom guitars somewhere in the future. You basically get a loaner instrument for free.
I've never heard of that being done.
Well, I want to promote the instrument.
That's amazing.
And I also want to sell my instruments. And I know that when you're starting out, it's like I said before, most people can't afford a $2,000 really nice quality instrument. They want to get something in their hands that they can start practicing on, and they want to get going. What you don't want is a $300 instrument that when it comes out of the box, it sounds terrible and it plays horrible. That's really a deterrent from you learning to play. I feel that by offering this program, you can trade that guitar in. You might play on it for 6 months. It's hard to say. 6 months, a year. Trade it in, get a really nice instrument. You're not wasting your money. It's a great program. It works very well.
That's amazing, because our own experience with banjos. Mm-hmm. You know, a intermediate to advanced level banjo, you're looking at $1,000, $1,200 minimum, and you go and if you start out on I hate to use the word piece of junk, but a banjo that isn't playable, let's say, you give up because it doesn't sound like a banjo. Mm-hmm. Action's too high, head ain't right, and you just put it away because it's too hard to play. This is a great idea. Anybody who's thinking about getting into the Resophonic guitar or the dobro style of playing should contact Paul, because nobody else is going to give you that kind of a deal. You go into a pawn shop and pick up an imported instrument for $300 or $400. You own it, and what's it worth? $50 for a musician. So you can always trade that in and get a top quality instrument that when you take it out, people are going to say, "What? Wow, it's a beard." And I've seen that happen. That's a great program. Are people taking advantage of it?
Oh yes, we sell a lot of these instruments. The other thing that goes hand in hand with this is the surface itself. If you already have a really nice instrument, you might have an OMI Dobro from the 70s or what have you. We offer the same setup value on that instrument. We get them shipped to us from all over the world. We'll perform this setup. New resonator, top of the line resonator, bone nut, bridges, and just go over the whole instrument and do the same type of setup. Again, in the 70s, 80s, a lot of these factories can't afford really to set the instruments up to the nth degree. We take a lot of pride in doing so because it makes all the difference in the world. Playability and the way it sounds.
Yeah.
The instruments that are in the mid-range, and when I say mid-range, that's around the $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 range. A lot of times there's not, and this really isn't a slam against those companies, but there really isn't a lot of value difference from, say, this instrument that I'm offering for $600. So I don't really offer a whole lot in the middle. It's the beginner and then go right to the top.
Yeah, you might as well, because by then you know this is what I want.
Right.
A good friend of ours, and I know you know him well, Ray Lewis, recently deceased, he had 2 of your guitars at least that I know of.
Yes.
And he loved them. He played them with pride, and you could tell. And he tells the same kind of story that you did. Mm-hmm. He heard the dobro once. I think he was in Branson. He was visiting, going somewhere, and he heard a dobro and just fell in love with it and had to play this instrument. And it does have that effect on people, doesn't it? The sound.
Well, and all instruments do. It just depends on what you like to hear and how it affects you emotionally and how it grabs your heart, as it were.
Yeah.
But absolutely.
Well, this is very interesting. What I want to see now is what makes one of these instruments, this wood, this metal, all these pieces go together, and what makes the sound? How does it happen? And okay. I know you've got some bodies and some cones and some sound wells over here. Maybe we can let our folks see what goes into a beard guitar and get a little insight into why they sound so good. And then maybe a little later we can get a look at your workshop where there are some really fine craftsmen making these basically one at a time.
Right.
Putting them together and putting the old way, putting themselves into it with a lot of pride and care. So I'm excited. I want to see what's happening here.
Okay.
And we'll take a walk over and take a look at the makings of a guitar and see what makes them go.
All right. One of the first things that I was interested in doing when I first started building guitars was offering a totally custom instrument. I really didn't have any set models at the time, and looking back, that worked really well for me. Every customer that would come to me would have something different in mind, and I really enjoyed that. But in the last couple of years, as my numbers have increased and we've been building a lot more instruments, I've had to pick some set models, and I based that primarily on my past sales. It was not uncommon for me to be backlogged maybe 2.5 years or even more on some of these custom pieces, and I just wanted to try to make a unity and finalize some of these really popular models. I came up with some basic styles. There are 2 body styles that I prefer to build. One I call the R body or the R model, and I'll give you an example of that. That's this shape. It's a very rounded, tighter waist, and it really has a nice shape to it. I call it the R model actually because I copied this off of an old Regal. Mike Aldridge was kind enough to let me trace around his, I believe it's a 37 Regal that he recorded a lot of the original Seldom Seen songs with. And so I dubbed this the R model. The other body shape that I currently produce is this one. It's my own design. It's slightly larger. As you can see, the waist is a little bit wider. It's maybe 1/4 of an inch longer in the body from the butt end to the neck to the heel area, and it's not quite as round. The other thing with this body, I like to make the thickness of the body itself a little thicker than the R model. So the R model is more of a traditional type of instrument. The E model is what I would call a contemporary guitar for some of the new players today that's looking for something a little different. This represents my traditional guitar construction. As you can see, we have a sound well in here, and this is a standard type sound well. We make these out of 3-ply maple. I like to put 9 holes in for the traditional construction, but on a lot of my R models, I open this up a little more. I don't know if you can see this here, but I open that up toward the upper bout. That enables me to work in here a little easier and also project a little more sound out these bass ports in the top. So that's the traditional sound type of construction. I call this my tone ring, a modified tone ring, in that I've opened it up. A new design that I have is this system. It's really not new from the concept. You can find some older dobro instruments from the 30s that you'll open up and they will not have anything inside. I've just modified it. If I can say this, I've improved upon that concept a little bit. I have a lightly braced back, and the back is actually arched, similar to an acoustic guitar. And it's arched in both directions. It's very thin, and it's tuned like an acoustic guitar and lightly braced. The top is a little heavier. It's braced fairly heavy to withstand that tension that you're getting from the tailpiece up to the peg head. You got to remember that there's approximately 30 pounds of tension on each string. That's a lot of tension pulling this tail block. So it's very important to have the top braced heavily, because this opening does not lend itself very well to adding structure or support when you're pulling here. This instrument is a great sounding box. It's if you will, half combination acoustic guitar and resonator guitar. I'm utilizing the back as a reflex panel to get some movement in the back, and that helps add to the total overall sound of the instrument. This instrument typically is very loud, a little on the bright side, very piercing, but very crisp and clear. I feel that it has a real defined sound. So I use this type of construction for a customer that might be looking for something a little more contemporary. And I'm offering that in the R body and the E body. If we go back to my traditional construction with my modified tone ring, these guitars are built in the traditional vein of dobro. They're more like a speaker cabinet. The top and the back are rigid. They're coupled together with this ring. There's not a whole lot of room for resonance in the body itself. What you're getting out of the total picture of sound is more of a reflective quality off of the inside of the instrument. It's a very rigid box. It's different strokes for different folks. Some people like this traditional sound. Some people like the more contemporary sound. I found early on that you can't please everyone, and what I'm out to offer is a lot of different models that hopefully will captivate the sound that you're looking for. In addition to this, I'm also offering a plywood version guitar, veneered guitar. I like to use birch like the traditional dobro instruments on the market. It's a very high grade, high quality birch plywood, top, back, and sides. And I can veneer on top of that some beautiful hardwoods, some spectacular exotic woods that you might not normally see in guitar construction. Those instruments, the plywood models, I call my vintage series. I have a vintage birch and a vintage cherry instrument. They are very simplistic in their harmonic structure. When you hear the sound of these instruments, they typically are very loud, very punchy, very simplistic harmonic structure. The notes are very clear. They have good punch to them. They make an excellent bluegrass jamming instrument, parking lot picking type of instrument. I call them my banjo killer. The standard R model is typically solid mahogany back and sides. This instrument is very warm sounding, very rich bodied, really deep bass, as well as a silvery high end. It's very balanced from bass to treble. I like this instrument because of its recording ability. It really comes across the microphone very, very nice. And then again, like I mentioned earlier, this new contemporary style is, I can use solid, it's really a combination of a veneered top for strength and a solid back and side. So it's more of a hybrid, and it has a sound all of its own. But the main focus with my business was to offer whatever the customer was looking for, and I enjoyed that aspect of the business when somebody would come to me and they would say, you know, I'm looking for something with this type of high end, and really that's what has driven me to do this. I enjoy that aspect of it, being able to develop something and give what the customer wants. In addition to square neck guitars, we make a lot of round neck instruments. And what I'd like to show you is a new concept, a new design that I have on the workbench, as it were, at this time. The heart of the resonator guitar is truly the resonator itself. It's made from a very thin aluminum sheet that's spun into this shape. And I can show you here, this is how it starts. It's 10/1000 aluminum, very thin, and it's made over a form like this one that's spun on an actual lathe or a spinning machine, and this sheet of aluminum is pressed over the form, and as it's rotating, it's forced into this shape. This is the actual resonator that's produced off of that form that I just showed you. It's kind of an older technique that was used in the turn of the century. Actually, it's still used today for many products. But not everyone can make these resonators to this high quality. We're very fortunate that we have a gentleman spinning this resonator for us. And the sound quality of this resonator is dependent also on the alloy of aluminum. The original guitars from the 30s, 20s and 30s were made from a more pure aluminum, and with the advent of World War II, after World War II, some aircraft aluminum alloys were developed, and they offer a much nicer ringing tonal quality to them. The instrument itself uses this resonator with a spider bridge, and this assembly makes up the majority of the working operation of the instrument. This is what produces that particular sound that you hear in a resonator guitar. So you're hearing mostly this aluminum resonator, and then out of these ports you're hearing more of a bass reflex off of the cabinet itself. That's where the body plays a really important role in the production of that overall sound. So it's a very delicate balancing act between the resonator and the guitar body. You can take this resonator and stick it in every guitar out there on the market, and they will sound similar, but still different enough that you realize the body does play a very important role. I kind of attribute the resonator itself to about 30% of the overall sound. The setup of the instrument, approximately a third of the sound, or 30%, and then the rest of the total picture of the tonal quality of your instrument is the body. So you can imagine if you have an inexpensive instrument and you want to upgrade, if you put the resonator and a really good setup, you have almost 2/3 of the total picture of a really high caliber instrument. But that last third is very important, and as I mentioned, that's the body or the construction itself. There are several different types of resonators available. This type with the spider bridge is typical dobro. You'll see this in bluegrass music primarily. It's a very full-bodied sound, very rich, real deep bass to a real nice highs, very balanced. Little wooden bridge inserts fit in here, and that attributes to the sound of the instrument as well. The other type of resonator on the market is the national style, and we refer to this as a biscuit bridge resonator. As you can see, it's a different profile, and the bridge itself is this small wooden biscuit. This is typical of a lot of blues type of genre of music. Again, you'll see this in most national instruments. I offer both styles, and there is a third, the tricone. It's a series of 3 small resonators coupled with a aluminum cast bridge. I offer 3 styles in my instruments. It really depends on what the customer is looking for. They are very unique. Each style, each resonator is very unique in tonal characteristic. On my instruments, I offer only the highest quality parts, and I'm proud to say that we can offer just about anything, from chrome to 24 karat gold to even black chrome. And this is just another way to personalize your own instrument. We also can offer some hand engraved tooling on the parts to personalize your instrument. This is the resonator that's in the imported instruments on the market today. It's slightly heavier in thickness, and the aluminum alloy does not offer as full body sound as our custom made resonators. You might be able to hear this, but I'll just hold this by the tension screw. Give you a little sound sample there. This is the resonator that I use. It's 10 thousandths aluminum, and it's an aircraft quality aluminum alloy. As you can hear, it has more of a bell-like feature to it, bell-like quality. It rings a little higher pitch and a lot more sustain. This is very critical for your total overall sound package to your instrument. When upgrading the imported resonator guitar, I will exchange this imported resonator with the high quality resonator, as well as the spider. This is the imported spider. It's a die-cast spider. It's actually a great looking spider. Unfortunately, it just doesn't have the ring that this American-made sandcast spider has. And this makes a huge difference in the overall sound. I'd like to talk a little bit about my standard models that I offer. This is a birch veneered guitar with a cherry finish. It's got this nice natural cherry look to it, with a mahogany neck, rosewood fingerboard that's bound, and the top and back are bound, chrome parts, dot inlay, and a rosewood peghead veneer. It's a very elegant instrument. This is, of course, available with gold parts, with a pickup installed. Really, you can design your own model with the options that I offer. But this is what I call my vintage cherry model. In the same line of instruments, this is a birch veneered guitar that is the vintage, what I call the vintage birch series, and I call this the Bluebeard, appropriately enough. This is finished in a blue metallic flake. It's a round neck, has an ebony fretboard, top and back are bound and the neck is bound, and it has a very nice, simply stated slotted diamond inlay. This is perfect for the blues player. We set it up with an action that's appropriate for playing fingerstyle as well as bottleneck blues. This instrument is my R model. It's that classic regal shape. It's solid mahogany construction with my modified tone ring in it. It has a nice decorative back strip, book matched back and sides and top, mahogany neck. Has an ebony fretboard with slotted diamond inlays, an ebony peghead veneer. Usually comes with chrome parts. It is available with gold, but it has a nice curly maple binding on it, which really sets off the instrument. Very elegant look. This one happens to be finished in a natural mahogany finish, but it's available in a sunburst. This is my personal instrument. This guitar is maybe 5 or 6 years old. It's the same model that I just showed you. It's my R model, solid mahogany, but it has that classic dark sunburst finish and 24 karat gold parts. And if you can get a close look, this is also heavily engraved. We have one of the finest engravers do this all by hand. It's a very deep cut, and he does just beautiful work. This represents a totally custom instrument. This is an art guitar that I built for a customer, and then after I built the instrument, I sent it to a gentleman by the name of Rick Parks. And he is the artist that actually drew these images on, and I understand he did it with a type of colored pencil. I sent the guitar to him in the rough. It was bare wood, and these portraits are actually drawn right on the bare wood. He sent it back to me, and I applied the finish on top. The theme of this instrument is Chancellorsville. It represents, of course, the Confederate side. And at the very top of the peg head, we have Robert E. Lee, and it's cut out in a relief form to represent him on the peg head. The peg head veneer is African zebra wood, and as we go down here, down the peg head, you can see it's signed by Rick Parks, the artist. It has a genuine bone nut, and the fingerboard is also made out of zebra wood, maintaining with the theme of the peg head. For fret markers, I decided to put abalone strips. Since this instrument is played lap style, actual metal frets are not needed. Rick incorporated a very nice saber on the fingerboard and little stars to use as the position markers for the fretboard. Down here we have Jeb Stewart with those piercing eyes, and John Mosby, and I think Rick did an incredible job of capturing those two gentlemen. And he chose the LeMat pistol, which I understand was a very popular choice by the Confederates, and they seem to tie in very nice with this theme. The spruce top has a nice background for the portraits. It gives it a very even tone and kind of a flesh-like appearance. And I decided to go with 24 karat gold parts. I colored the actual spider bridge and the resonator itself in gold. So everything coming out of here has a gold hue to it. On the side here, we have an inlaid coin that I understand is from the 125th anniversary of the Battle of Chancellorsville. Here we have Lee and Jackson, and it's dated May 1st, 1863. And on the other side of the neck is the other side of the coin. And it says the Battle of Chancellorsville, anniversary, 125th, 1863 to 1988. The sides and the back of the guitar are made from wingy. It has a very nice inlaid back strip. And the last feature I'd like to point out is this solid ebony cannon barrel that sets off the back of the neck. This guitar really represents what you can do with your instrument. From anything from a very basic, simply stated vintage model to a very high-end, custom, truly an art guitar. We can deliver just about anything that you're looking for. This guitar represents my latest project. It came out of an idea that I had that a lot of resonator players either like the National sound or the Dobro sound or maybe the Tricone sound. And I was after an instrument that possibly could give you all three. And this is the concept guitar. This is my prototype, and I'm glad to be able to show it to you today. It utilizes a standard cover plate. When we take the cover plate off, as you can see, what I have in here at this time is a Tricone. 3 resonators with the typical T-bar bridge. This guitar is going to be set up as a round neck instrument. It could be fitted with a square neck, but primarily it's designed to give you the option of different styles of resonators, and I've achieved that by its internal construction. If you remove the resonator cones, you'll be able to see this floor design, and this is held in place with 3 little screws. If you want to change to a different style, you remove this floor, and now the guitar is ready to receive the National biscuit style resonator. It sets right on that ring, and of course the biscuit bridge would fit right on top. Again, it's designed to use that standard cover plate. And then to take the step, one extra step a little further, it also has the capability to receive the standard Dobro style or spider resonator. This instrument is constructed with a very thin braced back. This particular one I chose to make it out of curly koa from Hawaii. It has a zebra wood back strip, curly maple binding. It has an arched back that's tuned and an all open construction. The neck is bolted on, and this open construction really delivers a lot of punch out of these F-holes. The important thing to remember is that the same parts and components and the same craftsmanship can be found in my...
Paul, this has been great. We've looked at some wonderful guitars here, the construction, that Chancellorsville guitar. I don't know if the camera can pick up the eyes, but I got to tell you, if if you see Paul at a festival or a show and he has that guitar, you got to go look at it. I was walking by your table at the Cabin Fever Festival.
Yes.
And I stopped dead in my tracks and looked at this guitar and said, oh my God, look at that thing. It is truly a work of art. It is truly a one of a kind. So it's really wild to be able to look at that and meet the guy that built it and really talk about it. It's wonderful. I love your idea on this tricone and the thoughts of being able to change the guts of it for different sounds. I find that very appealing. People are going to be excited about that, I think. And every tricone I've ever seen was a metal body.
Right.
I can't wait to see what that'll sound like. We're going to have to get back up when you start making these and play with them a little bit. And Patrick just whispered to me that he wants to sell his camera to get one of those Chancellorville guitars. And I'm sorry, I got to say, no way, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
No, not right now.
Well, Pat, thank you very much. I really appreciate this.
We've enjoyed it. What I'd like to do, if we could take a few minutes and just walk folks through the steps from picking a piece of wood around your shop. I know they're real busy over there, but I know that our viewers would like to see just a quick peek into your guitar building shop. There's 3 guys in there. They're very busy, but maybe we can just peek in and not disrupt things too much.
Sure.
Okay.
Let's go.
Let's take a walk over. So what this looks like to me is a whole bunch of wood. Now I know there's more to it than that. There's bits and pieces here and boards that turn into a guitar.
Yeah.
So somebody comes in and orders a guitar. How do you choose what wood to use? What says I'll take this one or that one? And this is really where it all begins, right here. The choices.
Right. Well, what you're actually looking at here is guitars on the shelf. You just don't know it yet. They're in the rough format. When you decide to purchase a guitar, or if you decide to have me build a guitar for you, I will go through this supply of wood, and we'll talk about what type of tonal characteristic that you expect to get out of the instrument, as well as the look. You might be looking for a particular coloration or grain, but most importantly is the sound. And just over the years of building instruments, I can kind of go through with you what wood's going to deliver what type of sound.
Okay, and then I guess the next step would be the workshop itself, the different steps to a finished guitar.
Okay.
Maybe we can take a quick peek over there.
Sure.
And see what's happening.
Yep.
Promise not to get in the way too much.
All right. This is the workshop. This is where it all happens. I've got some incredibly skilled craftsmen here. Carl is working on a rhodophonic model right now. You step over to his bench. This is the travel resonator guitar called the rhodophonic, and as you can see, it's about the size of a lap steel, and it has a hollow construction, and we use a smaller version of the dobro style resonator and spider bridge. Over here, Michael is preparing to bend some sides. We use these bending machines to generate the shape that we need. They're versatile in that we can put different models in. This is for our E-body guitar. And the wood is sprayed with water and then placed it in the machine, and the heat generated steams the wood and bends it into shape. These are some of the next instruments that will be finished for customers. They range anywhere from a double cutaway curly maple guitar to a lacewood instrument. And over here we have Bill. He's setting up a highly figured curly maple guitar. Right now he's installing the McIntyre pickup into the instrument. If you can get a close look here, you'll be able to see the little inserts that we put into the wood that uses a machine thread for the cover plate screws. This guitar is a spectacular guitar with this nice snowflake inlay, abalone nameplate inlay, tortoiseshell binding, and highly figured maple. This is the Rhodophonic, highly figured mahogany. This is quilted mahogany with a nice subtle antique kind of sunburst satin finish. Really gives it an old look to it. I have a transducer on the spider bridge to give it more of an acoustic sound, as well as a magnetic pickup to give it an electric or lap steel sound. It's wired to a single stereo jack. This has a scale length of 23 inches, and which is the same size of an average lap steel. Its volume is just loud enough for practicing and jamming and some small band situations, but plugged in it is definitely a performance oriented instrument. It comes with a geek bag.
This is sort of the nerve center of Resophonic Outfitters, the office, and some of the, what would you call these, accoutrements?
Yes, and the accessories.
Accessories,
sure.
That if you call or email or write the Resophonic Outfitters, some of the stuff you can get. Why don't you tell us real quick what's here and what people could get from you to supplement their playing?
Sure. I try to carry everything available for slide or resonator guitar. I carry a full line of slides for bottleneck playing, as well as every steel that's available on the market for lap style. Anything from picks to bridges, nuts, capos, anything that you can imagine, chances are that we have it, or if we don't, we know where to get it. In addition to that, we also manufacture a full line of straps. This is called the Web strap. It was designed by a fellow by the name of Jeff Bibb, and we manufacture them here. It's unique in that it has a quick disconnect system at the peg head. This strap is designed for dobro or lap style resonator instrument, and it simply cinches around the peg head. And as I mentioned, you can disconnect it, and it makes it easy to take it in and out of the case. It's available in a lot of different patterns, most of which are hand-woven Guatemalan fabrics, and it has 2 layers of fleece on the back side, which is very comfortable and very padded.
These are nice. They feel comfortable and substantial without being heavy or bulky.
Right.
They're really nice. Very, very nice.
We offer them for resonator guitar, banjo, mandolin, and flat top guitar.
The same kind of shoulder strap.
Yes, same design.
Very nice.
And they also come in a 2-inch width or a 3-inch width.
So even a banjo player can call up and get something,
Absolutely.
something good
Yes.
from Resophonic Outfitters.
Absolutely.
I see some setup and tuning type videos there. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I have a video called Dobro Setup and Maintenance. It basically goes through the disassembly and proper adjustment and then reassembly of the average Spider Bridge resonator guitar. The video is designed to point out the proper specifications, and really we're dealing with the issue of buzzes and rattles. That's the #1 problem that you will have with the resonator guitar. That video will tell you how to deal with that situation.
Good. Paul, this has been great.
Thank you, Pat.
To see your shop, your guitars, meet the folks that work here, it puts faces and personalities to these wonderful instruments. Let me tell you, folks, every one of these is put together with care, with pride. These people are very proud of what they do, and I've seen these instruments up close and personal, and they are truly beautiful instruments. You can't go wrong. Give them a call. Of course, you can get a website address is all right there for you in the text portion. So give them a call. You got a website, right?
Yes.
Check out, see where he's going to be at festivals, things like that. These people want to talk to you. They want to find out what you need, what you want, and they want their name on your next Resophonic guitar. And I tell you, if I was a dobro player, I'd be beating your doors down right now. They really look nice.
Well, thank you very much.
A little bit of the outside, and it all happens back in here, and it's really nice out in the country, out here in Hagerstown, Maryland. We're from Crisfield. We're in the same state.
Sure.
We're on the other side of the bay, way down. We had a nice drive up here, and thank you.
Thank you very
for
much.
inviting us.
It's been a pleasure.
Into your place and sharing this wonderful world of instrument building with us.
Thank you very much.